Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk. I'm Stephen Bastian, I'm your host, and today I'm going to talk about gullibility. We see so many things on social media and the news, and we just take it all in and believe it. So, yeah, let's talk.
Oh, Stephen, talk to me.
I will talk to you, and I hope you're gullible. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, but yeah, so gullibility. I mean, we believe everything that is spoon fed to us by social media and the news media. They're calling it the fake news. And it's like we see something and we just read a headline and boom, we believe it. Like the earth is going to be destroyed by an asteroid in 6 days. And it's like, oh my God, we believe it. We just buy into everything that we're fed. And it causes a lot of controversy. People take stances on issues that they don't even know about anymore. Like they only know what they've read on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or some news media that just says that, that's slanted what they want to push as far as their agenda. They have an agenda and that's what they push forward. That's what they want you to believe. And we've just become so gullible when it comes to stuff like that. Uh, that's it. That's all I got. Okay, see y'all later. No, I want to. I would love this to be interactive. I don't have any viewers right now, but I mean, I'm trying to figure out why we've become that way, and I guess it is because of social media mostly. Like you go on Facebook, you could go down your wall, and you could find so many things that people will say, "Oh, this is what Trump is doing," or "This is what this celebrity is doing." We've almost become a tabloid culture. It used to be in the old days and you could still find them on newsstands or at checkout counters, but you'd see the Inquirer or some other tabloid, and it would say so and so is sleeping with so and so, or so and so was abducted by aliens, and we just read that one headline and we're like, oh wow, that's cool, we just buy into it. But now it's become where you don't just read the headlines; people have a discussion about it. Like they'll post it on their Facebook page, and they take whatever they've read, whatever little piece of gossip or fake news that they've read, and they take it as gospel. And then they go on their Facebook page or their Instagram or their Twitter or whatever, and they're like, "This is what I saw, and this is what I believe, and this is my viewpoint on this." And then you'll have 50 other people that'll either agree with them or completely bash the hell out of them and tell them what an idiot they are, and you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about, this and that. And we've become almost evil about it. Like we're nasty about it in a lot of ways. A lot of people get downright personal, and it's hardcore sometimes. I've seen some people that were really nice people that were just ripped to shreds over something that they posted because they saw it on Facebook and they take it as that's what they believe. Or a YouTube video. They'll watch a YouTube video and they won't check the sources. The person says, I was a member of the FBI and I know aliens exist because I saw all the books on it and I saw all the literature and I've seen this and that and I was directly involved with the investigation of blah, blah, blah. And because they said that, because people don't lie, right? People never lie, they take it as, oh, that's a credible source. That person was in the FBI. Was he? And if he was he even part of that department? Or is that person just trying to make a name for themselves and become popular or become famous and create controversy? We don't investigate anything anymore. It's like we take everything, as I said, at face value. And we've become a society of McFlies. I mean, don't be gullible, McFly. Remember that? It's like we believe everything that we're told. Um, and it's in relationships too. It happens, I do the relationship life. I talk about relationships. And where we tend to believe what people tell us, even over our own significant other. Now, you might have a significant other, and that person tells well, okay, a good example would be somebody says, I saw your boyfriend or your girlfriend and so with so and so, and they were talking and they seemed like they were really engrossed in the conversation. I don't know what's up with that. I think that person might be cheating on you, and you take that as okay, and you buy it, and you go home and you jump all over that person, and you're like, well, my friend so and so told me that you were with so and so and you were doing this and you were doing that, and the person's like, no, I didn't, because they don't know what you're talking about, or it might have been something innocent. I wrote a song called "Talk to Me," and it's on SoundCloud. I'm sure you guys can find it if you look hard enough for it. But it's called "Talk to Me," and I tell a story in the song. The lyrics are: she walks in the door with an unholy scowl, kicks her sneakers off the floor violently now, makes her way past the sofa to the bedroom door. You know, and it's she's in anyway. Long story short, in the song, she's pissed at him, and he keeps saying, "Well, talk to me. Tell me what's going on." She's not telling him. You know what you did. You know what you did. I love that in a relationship, right? You know what you did. Listen, ladies, we guys are constantly screwing up. And when you say, you know what you did, yeah, we don't know what we did. Like, we're done. We're not going to tell on ourselves. It's like, okay, which one does she know about? We're constantly screwing up. Hey, CJ. Uh, but in the song, she's pissed at him and she's not telling him why. She's like, you know what you did. And it finally comes out at the end. He finally gets it out of her in the song. She said, I saw you at that woman's house, and don't you deny it. And he says in the song, he says, why should I, baby? She makes engagement rings, and I was going to buy it. He was going to a woman's house. She was a custom ring designer, and he was designing an engagement ring with her. And she saw the car parked out front, so she assumed that he was cheating on her. And that's my point: is that we hear two words and we make a sentence out of it. We believe what we see is really what we think we see, and we form our own conclusions without doing any of the research, without finding out what's going on. You know, and like I said, that's true in social media and the news media. There's you got to understand. I mean, they call it fake news. Now there is the liberal media that's slanted towards the liberal side, and the there's the conservative side. Like they say, Fox News is conservative, although Fox News says they're fair and balanced. Uh, they are slanted more towards the conservative. So your information that you're getting from these media sources, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, is slanted based on their agenda. So CNN, MSNBC are going to not ever paint Trump in a favorable light. Why would they? That's their guy is the Democrat. Fox News is never going to paint the Democrat in a favorable light because they're all about the conservatives. So we believe what we're spoon fed, and it's gullibility. It's pure gullibility. Uh, so this is probably going to be a very short show because I don't have a lot of guests. CJ says that he can't wait for the next One Word episode. It's going to be heartbreaking. Yeah, it is. I'm excited too. I'm excited too. No spoilers though. I haven't seen the one that came before. I'm going to catch up on that probably today, and we'll talk about that on Carpe Nerdy. But see, like this is a prime example. It's going to be heartbreaking. So I'm already going into it thinking it's going to be. If I didn't know anything about it, I'm going to be like, oh, it's going to be heartbreaking. Well, what if it's not? We've got to stop taking what people say at face value. I'm not saying you're lying, CJ, but it is going to be heartbreaking, actually. But we take what people say, what we see, what we hear from people, and we just take it at face value. And my point is we've got to do more in-depth analysis. We've got to look at the source, consider the source. There's a thing on Facebook. I guess it's not a group. It's something. Anyway, called the Daily Mail, and I laugh at some of the posts that they make. It's ridiculous the posts that they make because it's not real news. I tend to look at the bottom where it says the source. It'll say abc.com or nbc.com. And I'll know by reading that before I read anything else where it's coming from. Okay. And you gotta again consider the source. I mean, especially you when you see something or hear something from someone else, like if somebody's jealous in a relationship, maybe the person that told you that they saw your boyfriend or your girlfriend cheating on you wants your boyfriend or girlfriend. So they're going to try to break you up. You got to consider the source. But I have a guest that's going to be joining me right now, and I'd like you to welcome the ambassador. I've been on his show a few times, and now he gets to be on mine. So, ambassador, how are you, man?
Doing just fine, Stephen. Thank you for having me on. I know it's a little short notice and everything, but glad to be on today with you. So
I appreciate it. I do, because I was running out of material to talk about. CJ says he knows the ambassador.
yeah, CJ and I used to work back in the day.
Oh
So
yes, he's awesome. I love CJ. He's a great guy, marketing
yeah.
genius.
So
So
anyway,
I've been talking about how we see something on social media or the news, and
mhm.
we just take a headline and we run with it. We take everything at face value, and we've become a society that's so gullible. Have you noticed that?
Unfortunately, Stephen, yeah, I have because much like yourself, I grew up in a time before social media, before the internet, before any of this stuff even existed, and it sadly over the last couple of well since the 2000s when the internet really started to take off and everything, and you've gotten online media sources, you've got that are both reputable and disreputable. And let's be very candid, I heard what you were saying before I got on and everything, talking about the Daily Mail, and unfortunately there are those disreputable um, news sources out there that aren't fully vetted, who aren't on the up and up, who just want to, they're much like what the an old term called spin doctors.
Hmm.
They like to spin a narrative to a certain
Exactly.
degree way and everything, and they like to manipulate the facts in such a way that is favorable for them. And unfortunately, what we have seen in the last several years is certain sectors of our society have lost the ability to critically think and to disseminate fact from fiction. And just a recent thing, and this is actually a somewhat of a more lighthearted example of this. ING released a fake trailer for The Mandalorian season 2 where they had that really crappy
I
puppet
remember
version,
that.
and I, for one, well, if you can't tell, I am a fan of The Mandalorian. I'm a Star Wars fan.
I
I
am
very
too.
much enjoy. I loved the first season, and I was looking forward to. I was like, "Ooh, okay." ING, they're usually very reputable. They usually get advance notice of projects and so on. So you're going to take this and say, "Okay, this is reputable. This is the real thing," and then you have that very crappy looking fake yodeling and everything at the end of the episode. And a lot of people, myself included, were not entirely pleased with what
No.
ING had done. Now, I could see them doing, if they had done this, say, on April 1st as an April Fool's joke, that would be one thing.
Right.
But this is the tail end of April. This is April Fool's Day, not April Fool's month. And everything. And I know that's kind of splitting hairs. But the other problem is as society has gotten so much faster, we're on a 24-hour news cycle. You've got 24-hour news stations and what have you, and it's hard to keep track of what's fact and what isn't.
And I,
And
real quick, I think that's primarily the problem. Is there, before it was when we got the news. I mean, I
mhm,
don't know how old
yeah,
you are, but back in the
I'm in
'80s.
my 40s.
Okay,
I'm in my
so
40s.
we're the
Yeah.
same age group. So back in the
Mhm.
'80s, when you got your news, basically the way you got your news before cable news networks came around was the 6 o'clock news or the 11 o'clock news, and it was a
Yeah.
half an hour or an hour of news, which they could pack in all of the important news things. And a lot of times on a slow news day, they had to embellish a
Mhm.
little bit, but on a regular
Yeah.
news day, if you lived in any kind of big city or big town, there was
Mhm.
plenty for them to do to the point where they could really just touch on it. They give you 15 or 30 seconds of news and they go on to the next thing. Now, with 24-hour news, they have to fill 24 hours. So they bring in, I mean, they'll talk about if you had a news story, and this is not real, this is fake news. I'm making this up as an example. But if
Mhm.
you had a if you had a
Yeah.
story where Trump was seen with another woman and he was
Mhm.
at his golf course with a girl in a bikini riding on the cart. They
Mhm.
won't just
Yeah.
report Trump was seen at his thing. We don't really know what's up with that. We don't have any information on it, but he was seen with a beautiful woman and they were kind of palling around together. Maybe there is a possibility that he may be stepping out on Melania. That and leave
Mhm.
it at that. And that's it. That's your opinion. You gave your opinion. But now they'll bring in pundits and people that are experts and people that'll talk about, well, I know he said he grabs girls by the what. And I mean they'll bring in all of these experts and they'll have a panel, a horseshoe shaped table of like nine
Mhm.
panelists that are gonna talk for 4 hours on this one thing. And
Yeah.
there comes a point where they really got to start making it up as they go along. You
Yeah.
know, you can only
Well, or
talk
and
about something so.
not just making up as they go along, but for just flat dab lying about it.
Yeah,
You know, and here's the other thing, and this is an issue that I have. You and I probably remember the days of when pretty much a news reporter just reported the news and you made up your own mind.
right.
Now, I don't have a problem with somebody doing an op-ed or doing an opinion piece and what have you. And that's part of news or anything. A person gives their opinion and everything on a particular topic or subject and everything.
But they
It's not
try to
much.
they try to sell opinions as fact. Like it's
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah,
The thing is, journalists have gotten away from just reporting the news or giving their opinion and saying this is simply my opinion. Make up your own mind. And that is why you have seen the rise of independent media, particularly on YouTube and on podcasts and so on. That's why guys like Steven Crowder, like Tim Pool, whether you like either one of those guys or not, and everything, that's why they are so popular. That's why they have such a large fan base. That's why people, I mean, Crowder, he does mix in humor and everything in comedy because he was first.
it's funny.
He was first and foremost. He was first and foremost a comedian, but he does the work and everything. He has a team. It's not a huge team, but he does. He puts in the legwork, and his team puts in the legwork to bring facts and make it entertaining. With Tim Pool, he's more, I don't want to say low budget, but his is more. He doesn't inject humor. He just gives the facts as best as he knows how, and he doesn't identify as a conservative whatsoever. He considers himself more libertarian, leaning center left. But the thing about him, and this is something I really respect about him, he will pretty much work with anybody as long as they're able to have a civil conversation and back up what they're saying.
I'd
I
love
mean,
to be
he's
on his
appeared
show. I'd love to be on his show.
I mean, he's appeared on Joe Rogan several times. He's been with Steven Crowder on a few occasions and what have you. I'm waiting for the day when he's on with Ben Shapiro and the
Yep,
Shapiro's bunch, Daily Wire, and what have you. And that's another one right there. Ben Shapiro, I mean, he's got a team around him, and these guys are very sharp. Well, I think he's got a couple of women that work on Daily Wire as well. These are men and women that are very sharp, and they're very intelligent, and they are, in a lot of ways, the new media. But the thing is, yes, they they work hard, but they also have a very compelling personality. That's the other thing. The problem with a lot of your old school media like CNN and I don't want to say Fox, but Fox to an extent, and MSNBC is the people they put on camera. They're not compelling. They're just annoying.
Well, they're eye candy. I mean, they put on pretty looking people. I mean,
Yeah.
we have lost.
Well,
We don't have anybody even comparable to Walter Cronkite. That's the way it is.
yeah,
He told it like it was. That was it. That's the way it is. That was his tagline. And
yeah.
we don't have those anymore. They put people on there that are pretty boys or pretty girls. I mean, like Megyn Kelly, gorgeous, but has about the depth of a bathtub. You know,
I would not disagree. I would not disagree with you. And the other thing that has really become a problem, before Trump got elected, and this is very much so starting back. I really started to see it in 2012. Was the fact that the media started to shift its biases, in a manner of speaking, where they were, to use a term, I don't like this phrase, but I think it's an apt phrase. They started carrying water for the Democrats.
Mhm.
Now, you know what? Here's the thing. I've got my beef with both parties. I am a
As do I.
conservative.
I'm a libertarian. I'm center.
I'm Republican leaning center right, or I'm a Republican leaning center and everything. That's where I'm at, because there are some Democrats I respect and there are Republicans I respect and everything. Now, I won't go into great depth here and everything, but or to any stretch or anything along those lines. But my problem is, just give me the stinking facts. Let me make up my own mind and quit trying to shove your opinion and your ideology down my throat.
Yeah.
And we'll get along just fine. That's the biggest problem I have.
And it's affected our personal relationships, because I don't know if you're married or single.
Married.
You're married. But it's affected our personal relationships, that we've become such a tabloid society that we hear two words and we make a sentence out of it. Somebody tells us a little piece of gossip that they heard, and instead of doing the research and finding out if it's true or not, we run with that. Like, if one person says, I blah blah blah, we'll run with it, and it's really affected our personal relationships, because I've seen relationships devolve and fall apart over something political that was not based in any kind of reality whatsoever. It's because they saw it on Facebook. They think it's true. And people, I had two friends on Facebook the other day I was watching. I just sat there and watched them go back and forth. I didn't comment, but I just watched their comments. And it started out where person A, we'll call her Jennifer. Jennifer made a point about Trump and that she's a Trump supporter and she loves what he's doing, and he's doing a great job with coronavirus. And this other guy, we'll call him John, who was a very good friend of hers. They've been friends for years. He started talking about, well, you're wrong about this and you're wrong about that. And then she came back with, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, well, you need to do your research and you need to do your homework and find out the truth before you put things on Facebook. And she's like, it's my Facebook page. And my point is that conversation, I just watched it devolve into, finally, you're an idiot. And she said, well, you're blocked. Screw you. We're done. Block. And their friendship was over something that was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And that honestly is unfortunate. Now, by and large, everybody that I grew up with from elementary all the way through high school and college, all the different colleges I've been to over the last several years, by and large, I've been able to keep the majority of those friendships, actually the biggest chunk of those friendships, because it's not because we think alike, but we're able to have civil discourse and say, okay, this is where we agree to disagree. This is where we separate, but we remain friends. We remain civil with one another. And part of the problem is, and this is something I have seen as well with kids young adults who are coming up through school, high school and going into college, is the ability to build interpersonal relationships has kind of become a lost art in a manner of speaking.
Oh, it has. It has.
And it's unfortunate because these kids, and I hate to use that term, but I'm older than most of them, are looking for the biggest number of followers on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, instead of building relationships in real life with people. That's something that has been lost. Now, as someone, I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in '78 and everything. So, as a Gen Xer, I have used social media to keep in contact with those people that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. They're on social media too. And we may not agree on everything when it comes to politics or society or whatever, but there's still that bond. There is still that tie. And unfortunately, these kids that are coming up now, they don't have that bond with their classmates or with their childhood friends and everything in some instances. Basically, all they have is their friends on social media, and that's it. I mean, that is very unfortunate, because how we grow and how we change and how we evolve as people is how we interact with people in real space. And if we don't learn in real space how to interact and how to disseminate information, it ultimately leads to us being gullible people.
And that's the whole point of the show, is gullibility. I mean, we have become a gullible society. Even the Gen Xers, I mean, they're devolving. We used to be so sophisticated. We used to know we knew stuff. We grew up knowing stuff. We had to know stuff. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, and a lot of it, people say, well, this new generation is out of control. Well, kind of, it's our fault, because we didn't want to treat them the way our parents treated us. So we spoiled them rotten. We spoon fed them everything. We coddled them. Oh, you don't spank your children. Oh my God. It's become, and we created that entire generation of needy, wanting, needy crybabies, because they're just spoiled rotten. And it's our fault because we overcompensated way, way too much. I'm guilty of it. I did the same thing.
Well, and me and my wife, we have no children. But a lot of my friends I went to school with, they do. But from what I have seen, they have raised their children much in the same way that they themselves were raised. Maybe they weren't as strict or maybe as harsh as their parents were with them, but there were still boundaries. There were still rules. There was still structure within their lives and what have you. And their children have grown up to be well-adjusted children themselves. And I think you're starting to see a slow turn, but it is happening. You're seeing it return to having structure, to having rules and everything, and having boundaries and everything within families and everything, where the parents do set all of those things for their children, and they set them early on. I mean, as a kid, this is an anecdote from when I was a kid. My mother and my grandmother raised me. My father was sick and everything during the biggest part of my childhood, and he died when I was 7. And it is what it is. And one of the things that I learned very early on as a young man was, when you're in church, you sit, you're quiet, you behave.
Oh yeah.
And everything. But the thing was, neither my mom or my grandmother, they never had to raise their hand. They never had to take me outside the church and everything. If I didn't feel well or something, I tugged on my mom or my grandmother's dress sleeve or whatever and said, "Hey, I don't feel good. I gotta go to the bathroom," or whatever. And either they would take me or I would go on my own. And it was one of those very foundational things for me that built structure, that built a sense of, this is how you behave in, I don't want to say civilized society, but in certain situations. There is time to be loud and rowdy and go out and play and be loud and whatever. But church is one of those places where you weren't like that. Now, nowadays, church in some instances has changed and everything. The style of worship has evolved and what have you. And that kind of leads into something else that I have noticed. The unfortunate thing with this whole idea of our society becoming more gullible is we have a knee-jerk reaction to how we relate to each other on a, I'll say it this way, on a spiritual level, because there has been a lot of issues with people in relation to how they are in church and how they relate to the church and everything, whether you're a Protestant or a Catholic, either way. And what I have seen online bothers me, because in a lot of ways, social media and a lot of news sources have taken to spinning these very negative and honestly very blatantly false narratives about the church.
Yes.
And that's why in some instances, sadly, you have seen a decline of people being a part of any sort of organized religion. Now, am I saying you have to be a member of a denomination? No, you don't, and anything. Now, I myself am, but that's me. But the thing is, having faith in something bigger than yourself is very foundational to how we structure our lives. And that is something that I think the younger generations are very sorely lacking. But the problem is that the church, in a large part, has gotten a very negative rap, and in some instances, they have not handled certain situations as well as they should have, and it has put egg on their face and everything. I mean, because you hear these stories about these pastors who are doing things that they ought not do, that I will not go into here and everything, and it damages the reputation of the church, and it makes it much harder for people to say, this is a body or this is a part of society that I want to be a part of. And something that I myself am trying to work towards is presenting a portrait of what it means to be a person of faith in the 21st century. Because as I was talking with another channel and everything a couple of days ago, everybody sees Christians as these very stodgy, very stiff, very rigid, and very boring people who just go to church, read their Bible, and do nothing else.
Fluffy bunny Christians.
Huh?
Fluffy bunny Christians.
Unfortunately, yes. And everything. Everything's happy. Everything's good. I'm like, no, people, not everything's happy. Not everything is good.
No.
I mean, you know, well, and the other part of that and everything, that the stigma that I am trying to break and everything is, I am first a Christian, yes. I am second, I am a geek. I am a huge, huge geek. I was a geek before being a geek was cool.
Oh yeah.
And this whole idea that just because you're a Christian, because you go to church, whether you're a pastor or a layman or just a member of a congregation, means all you do is go to church, sit at home, read your Bible. No, that's not true.
It's not true.
And that's one of those things that the stigma needs to be broken, to show people that people of faith in the 21st century aren't cookie cutter.
No.
We all have our own individual passions. We have our own individual ideas. We have our own interpretations of how we relate to the Bible and how we do church and how we relate to people who are either in the faith or outside of it.
You could be a Christian and a Trekkie.
Yes, you can be a Christian and you can be a Star Wars fan. You can be a Christian and you can be a fan of Lord of the Rings, or God forbid, because I know there was a big fuss about this back in the early 2000s, Harry Potter.
Yes.
You know, and
as long as you're not a fan of Babylon 5.
Ha ha ha. Very funny. Very funny. So, but you know, that's the part of the problem with the reason why we have become so gullible as a society is we've had so many different breakdowns in how our culture and how our society relates to one another. How we relate to each other in society has broken down, sadly.
It has.
And that is something as I said, I am trying to combat. I am trying to break that stigma. And if it takes me 100 years or more to do it, Lord willing, I live that long.
That's why I did this show, is to try to get people to realize that, I'm not accusing people of being gullible, but you got to consider your source, and you got to check your source.
Yes.
And you got to fact check. That fact checking is such. And when they started bantering that term around, fact checking, I thought, okay, maybe we're going to become a society of fact checking, and that would be awesome.
And
everybody, but we don't.
Well, and here's the thing. This is something that I learned in college and everything when I got my BA and my MDiv, is I had to take a critical thinking class, and I had something similar to this when I was in high school, but this was much higher level stuff. Obviously, it was I was in a major university, and this very much gave me the tools to further fact check, further disseminate what's true and what's false. I'm gonna paraphrase the last scripture here. Double check it, triple check it, and make sure it comes from above and not below.
Right. Exactly.
And that for me is one of the biggest things, is the fact that we as a society need to learn and need to teach the younger generations how to think critically, how to do research again. Now, I'm not saying that using Google and Wikipedia is a bad thing. These are great, amazing tools that we have at our disposal. But you need to be smart about what you use as fact.
Yep. And CJ makes a valid point. He says you need to respect each other's opinions. Lots of people can't do that, and it starts a lot of fights and arguments and drama. That is very that we've become so quick to jump on our friends and family and people. And I mean, I don't even go to Thanksgiving anymore with my family. And it's not because I don't like my family. I don't like the drama, because it's like we can't sit down and have a meal together without somebody bringing up something that somebody else doesn't like. And it always devolves into a big fight and a lot of drama. And I'm so sick of the drama. And it's because we've become a society of, we take what we hear, we run with it, we form an opinion too quickly, and that becomes our gospel. Like whatever we hear, it becomes our gospel, and suddenly we know everything about that subject, even though we've done no research on it whatsoever.
As a seminary student and just as a college student in general, I can't tell you how many hours I have poured over books, poured over sites that are credible online. One of the best classes I ever had when I was in college and everything was a writing class, and it was on contemporary American literature from like the early 1700s onward and everything. And something that my professor told me is, go to your .govs, go to your .orgs, go to your .edus. Those are your credible sources. Don't trust your .coms, because sometimes they're not going to be that credible. They're not going to be that trustworthy. And I've very much taken that to heart throughout the rest of my life, and it's something that I've passed on and to my friends who also have gone through college and what have you. So, and Stephen there he is. He disappeared. He just freaking disappeared.
I was letting you go, man. I was letting you take the stage.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, the thing for me is we need to do two things as a society. One, we need to learn how to fact check better and disseminate what sources we use, what sources we follow, and what sources we trust. And two is we need to learn how to build interpersonal relationships again in real space and in virtual space.
And not be such button pushers. I mean, CJ just made a valid point about he knows how to push 3 buttons. We've become also a society of button pushers. We know what gets people pissed, and we know what buttons to push to make them go, to lose their minds. And it's almost become entertainment to see. They call them trolls, for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and I've come across my fair share of trolls on YouTube and what have you. And I, by and large, have just turned the knob off, changed the channel, to use an old analog phrase, because there is enough negativity in the world as it is for me to add to it. That's why with my channel, I don't go negative by and large. And if I do so, I do it constructively.
Well,
what have you.
Tell us about your channel. Give yourself a plug. What is your
channel? My channel is simply called The Ambassador. I cover pop culture from the 80s and 90s, and I do go into the modern era and what have you. I do videos, I do live streams, I collaborate with lots of people, yourself included, and what have you. I try to keep my content positive because, as I just said, there's enough negativity in the world without me adding to it. And honestly, when I started my channel late last year, I did not want to go negative. Now, I have done some negative, for lack of a better term, videos, but I tried to keep it constructive and not just me sitting in front of a camera or whatever, yelling at the top of my lungs for 15 or 20 minutes or more. And I've tried to build rational and reasonable arguments for my position. And that is something else that I think a lot of people have lost the capacity to do in some ways.
Yep.
If you're going to make a statement, be able to back it up. Don't just run behind mama's coattail and everything and just say, holler, Isterphobe, or you're stupid. That isn't how you win an argument. That's making yourself look like a fool.
Well,
and
on your last show, we talked about Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country.
Mm-hmm.
And that what you're saying, it lends to that whole point. You can go to the Ambassador's channel, and you'll see our whole discussion on that movie. And it was a fun discussion, but Kirk had his whole. He hated Klingons because of the death of his son, and nothing was going to sway his mind. Nothing was going to change his mind until he saw what was really going on. But we form our own opinions based on some things, and we run with that. And that's why the situation happened that it happened. I mean, of course, Starfleet used it to their advantage, as they always do, as Rockland always do. But he made it known that he hated Klingons, and there was nothing that was going to change his mind. His compassion went right out the window.
Yeah, well, and in Kirk's particular case, I would think that's very valid for the simple fact that it was a Klingon that took the life of his son.
Right.
That it was a group of Klingons that caused him to destroy his vessel and put not only his life, but the life of his crew and his closest friend in jeopardy.
But would that be considered racist? And even to today, I mean, you would figure in the 21st century, 23rd century, they would evolve beyond racism. But he hated the entire race of Klingons because one rogue Klingon killed his son.
Well, I don't think it was just because of one rogue Klingon. Because if you think about the history of the Klingons with Kirk, it's slowly escalated throughout the entire run of the show, not to mention the movies. I mean, the Klingons have been seen as a very aggressive, and it's an apt description. They are a very aggressive race. They're a warrior race, and what have you. So that descriptor for the Klingons is not inaccurate. But for Kirk, no, I would not consider it racist. He has a prejudice against them because of everything that the Klingons have done throughout his various interactions and their interactions with the Federation, all the lives they've taken. But for him, he has a personal stake now David's life was taken by Krug and his crew.
Right.
So Kirk's position is valid. But here's the thing. And this is something that me and another YouTuber, Adega, were talking about yesterday on my stream and everything. We were talking about Babylon 5. It was the episode called The War Prayer, where you have a group of anti-alien activists, very violent anti-alien activists on the station. And there have been a rash of attacks on aliens there on the station. And this whole idea that we can evolve, it's obvious that we have evolved, at least in the Babylon 5 universe, past racial prejudice. Yes, we have, obviously. But it has simply changed and taken on a new form, and it's taken on a new face in terms of certain groups of humans and everything were wanting to remove alien influence from human society. And I made this point, and Adega and everything backed it up and everything, gave his own perspective on it. If you limit who you interact with based solely on their physical appearance, whether it's a skin color or the fact that they come from another planet, you are limiting the growth of your society, and not only that, but of yourself. Because if you don't have input from outside of your box, you're just going to become stagnant. You're not going to grow. You're not going to change, and you're not going to have the opportunity to potentially become a better person. And, that is one of the great things and everything. It is honestly a double-edged sword when it comes to social media and the internet. We have access to such a wealth of knowledge now.
Yes.
And everything.
It's not always a good source of knowledge.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's where you have to learn how to think critically and disseminate what you're reading. If it comes from a reputable source, consider it good and everything. If this is a vetted source or anything that you go to on a regular basis or has a very high reputation, then you can more likely say, okay, what I'm reading off of this website is good stuff. It is accurate to the best of anyone's ability, because there's always going to be some little factoid that's going to be missed or left out. That's just the nature of the beast. But the problem is you've got so many people online who act in bad faith that are tossing stuff out onto the internet that's just quite literally garbage, that
it's hard to know which is true and which isn't. It all blurs together.
In some instances, yes, that is very true. That is why we have got to, not only for ourselves, but for the younger generations that are going to be coming up behind us, we need to teach them, we need to show them how to be more informed, be wiser at what you read, be wiser at who you listen to, be more critical in who you get your sources and your facts from.
And it's going to come down to personal responsibility, because we can't depend on the news media or any other thing to give us that kind of information on a credible level. We have to find out, from multiple sources, and don't just run with one news article and say, well, I read this one news article and this is what I believe now. Mm-hmm. You've got to double, triple, quadruple check, because it's because
well, and to kind of follow up on that and everything from my own perspective, I am working towards becoming an ordained pastor, and something that we do and everything in crafting and writing our sermons is we go through numerous commentaries and interpretations of Scripture, and we find the threads and everything for those sermons and everything to craft the message that we want to preach, that we want to share. And by and large, most of the commentaries that I use and that other people that are around me use, they're credible, they're well vetted, they come from very scholarly people who have spent years or decades in the field of biblical commentary and interpretation and translation and all those things that go into that field and everything, that the tools that we have at our disposal are about the best that you can get.
Yes, they are.
And that's something that I bring over to my geek passion, to my discussion and my examination of geek culture. Is I go to sources that I trust. I go to websites. I go to channels on YouTube that have done the legwork. And I'll give you two prime examples and everything. This is something I just brought up recently with the whole hullabaloo and everything about the brand new Dune that's hopefully going to be coming out in December.
Hopefully.
There have been this.
Are they wrapped up filming it? Because if they haven't,
I think, from what I understand, they have finished principal photography. I think they're working on post production at this point. But what I mean is, hopefully, the theaters will be open and they'll still be solvent and everything by the time. Yeah, by December, hopefully. That's what that was my meaning there. But there was this whole kerfuffle about the fact that they had changed the race and gender of one minor character, and everybody was saying the movie's going to go woke. Dune 2020 is going to stink. And I'm thinking,
character.
Leah Kynes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never heard that. Interesting.
I'll send you the link to that video and everything, and I'll send you. Well, I'll bring this up right now. There's a channel on YouTube. There's actually a couple, but there's more. There's probably more than one, but there's one that I follow. It's called Quinn's Ideas. And he covers Dune, he covers Game of Thrones, and anything that's really dense, really heavy, that's geek culture. And the guy has done his work. He's read the novels. He's gone through every note, every jot and tittle that he can get his hands on and everything, whether it's physical or virtual, online and everything that he can find. Anything to build his knowledge base of the Dune universe, because it is a very thick, very heavy, dense universe. Everything the Dune universe is. And I'm not, CJH, yes, I'm not gonna go to Geeks and Gamers for my Dune news. Excuse me for being blunt here. I'm gonna go to Quinn's Ideas for my Dune news, and I'm gonna go to it for a informed and accurate perspective on it. Now, I got a comment on that particular stream that I did. The person said, well, Quinn's a leftist first, and he's a Dune fan second. And I'm thinking, I don't particularly care about the guy's political or social leanings. He knows the universe. And when the guy is saying, this is a minor character, they've changed the race and the gender on it,
it doesn't
matter. What, for me, it doesn't matter. They're doing it for clickbait, and that is one of the things that drives me nuts with stuff online, when these channels do nothing but clickbait. That's why
on Facebook, I saw the other day there was an asteroid that was going to pass close to Earth, and they said it's going to hit the Earth and we're all going to die. And I clicked on it, and it was nothing. I mean, the story was from NASA, and it was going to pass within 1 million miles of us. And I mean, they love to clickbait. And I'm like, I can't.
No, well, and and that's the same thing with like anything that's. I mean, my main passion is Star Wars
culture. It's our tabloid culture. They do that in tabloid magazines. Go to any register checking out at the grocery store.
I remember, Sun News, National Enquirer, all of those. I remember when I was a kid and we'd be staying in the grocery line. I'd read the headlines. And I'd be like, even when I was a young kid, when I was a teenager, I'd look at it and go, okay, sure.
Well, look at
whatever.
Recent news. I mean, I'm talking within a few days now. People watching this on YouTube and rerun. This is probably going to be old news for you, but just within the last day or two, Kim Jong-un, is he dead? Is he alive? For a minute, they were saying he was dead. Then he was alive.
I've heard the same story. Yep.
I mean, nobody knows whether this guy's dead or alive, but people heard that he was dead and ran with it. Like, they didn't do any checking. They didn't do any fact checking. And I'm talking about the main news medias. They didn't do any fact checking. They just ran with, he's dead. And then they had to backtrack and go, well, maybe now they're saying he's not dead.
He's comatose. He's a vegetable. Whatever.
That's what they're saying. Now they're saying he's alive and well. That's the latest one.
Yeah, and
But you got to consider the source. We're not going to get any kind of credible reporting out of North Korea. If he's dead or alive, they're not going to tell us until his sister takes the throne. Then we'll know. But until that happens, they're
Yeah.
not going to tell. They're not going to tell
Pretty
anybody.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
6 months ago, and we would never know it.
yeah, more likely. And the other thing for me, my main major fandom that I love is Star Wars, and there are 2 or 3 channels that I implicitly trust. One is Star Wars Theory. He knows his stuff and everything. He does. And
they know a lot of their stuff too.
Yeah.
They're
who?
Lighter Jedi Council.
Oh yeah, I've heard about them. Yeah.
Lighter.
So
awesome. I love Lighter. They're great.
So yeah.
Carpe Nerdium too. Carpe Nerdium. They know a lot about it. That's my show, actually.
Obviously, yeah. So, but it basically, breaking the whole cycle of being gullible people is going to come down, obviously, as you said, to individual responsibility. But the thing is, we need to give these people, these younger generations that are coming up, the tools that they need to be critical thinkers.
What's never going to happen is people that are reporting the news taking credibility. I mean, that even comes down to clergy. I mean, there are so many preachers that I see, and it has completely turned me off. A lot of organized religions have turned me off because they will all swear up and down that Jesus is coming. This is our generation. It's going to happen in our lifetime. Christ said, "No man knows."
Right knows.
No man. They cannot say definitively that he is coming this week, this month, next year, 10, 20 years. He will come for another 1,000. But there are preachers out there that will sell it, and it's to get donations. But they will sell it. And Kenneth Copeland is one of the worst.
There are,
that guy makes $750 million a year.
That man. I'll have to send you a video and everything later and everything. There's a channel that I follow called Lutheran Satire, and they actually did a video on Kenneth Copeland. I think you'll get a laugh out of it. I'll send it to you later.
To Christians though, because he's so wrong on like 9 levels.
Here's the thing. I grew up in the televangelist era in a lot of ways, and unfortunately, they are still around.
Oral Roberts.
Yeah. Now there are some that are genuinely decent people, like Billy Graham was. He was. I don't know enough about the Son to make a statement on him one way or another. But the thing that I detest, and I use that word, and it's a very strong word, the one thing I detest about televangelists, Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen, just to name 2, those men, they are not representatives of Christ, nor are they representatives of God. They're representatives of their own ego. And they're using Scripture to back up their ego, and that's not what Scripture's for.
But people in that kind of influential power need to start taking personal responsibility. They do. It's their responsibility.
Well, and going a little biblical here. Eventually, they're going to have to own up to what they did to the Almighty. And I have a very. I'm not saying I know for a fact, but I am making my best educated guess on this. They're not going through those pearly gates. They've got a one-way ticket straight down the express elevator to hell.
Well, I have a philosophy on that. You could watch my previous episodes where I talk about my personal belief on all of that, but we won't get into a philosophical discussion on this show.
Yeah.
We'll save that show with Sunday brunch, because I'm going to start doing on Sundays. I've switched gears. Tuesdays is going to be like what we're doing right now is going to be coffee talk.
Coffee talk with Linda Richmond. You need to get a big wig and those glasses.
Oh, right. I used to do coffee talk on Sundays and Tuesdays, but Sunday's show went so far into religion and faith and spirituality that it really wasn't coffee talk anymore. So now I'm doing Sunday brunch with Stephen, and we're gonna sit down and have brunch and talk about faith and spirituality. I'd love to have you on that show as well. Then we can really deep into the thing. But you and I are gonna have very contrasting opinions about religion because you're more mainstream, by the Bible. I'm more, I take my references from multi religions, whether it's the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Bible. I look at all aspects of faith.
Sunday
show was on paper, believe it or not.
The thing is, Stephen, while I'm a devout Christian, I don't hold. While I do have a leaning and a bias, I don't discredit any other person's faith.
No, nobody should.
No, I don't just because of my particular leaning, I'm not going to say, well, no, your particular religious text is inaccurate. It's wrong. No, because it's the foundation of what you believe.
Exactly. If you believe in the flying spaghetti monster, God love you. That's
or if like Linus of Van Pelt, you believe in the Great Pumpkin.
Great Pumpkin.
That was one that one of my philosophy professors used and everything as an illustration on a few occasions when I was in seminary. So, but yeah,
that on a Sunday brunch show. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here.
Yeah.
And I too have a science. That's what he said. He has a scientific view. CJ says he has a scientific view. I have a scientific view as well. I think evolution and religion and faith, Christianity can be combined. They intermesh.
They can to a degree, but there's a very careful balance that you need to strike there. Everything if you're wanting to use scripture and everything, in particular Genesis 1 or Genesis 1, 2, and 3 as a basis for scientific discussion on how life evolved.
Well, it's like I said in an earlier episode. I think it was the episode "The Science of God." The Bible is chock full of metaphor. Like almost every story in the Bible, even it spoke in metaphors. So
he spoke in parable. He spoke in metaphor. Yes,
Genesis cannot be taken as a literal play-by-play account of how.
No, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
Genesis 1 and everything is, and I'm talking about Genesis 1, the first 24 verses.
Right.
Is not a blueprint for how God created existence and life and everything else. It is a metaphor, but in the larger context, and particularly in Jewish society and Jewish culture and Jewish religious belief, and in particular in Jewish worship, it is a congregational hymn or congregational recitation prayer that would have been read, say,
sort of like a psalm.
In a manner of speaking, yes. That would be an accurate word for that. So, but the Genesis 1 is not the play-by-play. It's something that the people of Israel read, and we as Christians read as well, and everything as part of our worship and how we understand God. I'll have to have a discussion with you off air, or maybe we can do it and everything on your Sunday brunch or anything, because I actually took ancient biblical Hebrew in seminary, so I can give you all the little nuggets and everything.
Okay, so everybody watching this on Sunday at noon, this coming Sunday at noon, we are going to do the Science of God Part 2, and we're going to delve deep into Genesis and Exodus and all of that all of that Old Testament goodness.
Everything. If I'm available, I'll let you know. I should be, but I'll let you know.
So thank you for coming on the show, my friend. And I think we had a good discussion, and hopefully we opened people's eyes. If you'd like to continue discussion, continue in comments. If you agree, give us a
Mhm.
thumbs up. If you disagree, give us a thumbs down. That's fine. Everybody
Yeah.
has a right to their opinion, and
Mhm.
just make sure you check your sources before you do. Thank
Yes.
you, Ambassador, for coming, and we look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend.
Thank you, Stephen. It was a pleasure.
Everybody else, have a great day. Peace.
Peace.